Welcome to another episode of Get Visible with Heike, and I am so excited to talk about roller coasters today. I know everybody wants to jump on one, and we love the excitement of a roller coaster, but I think Suzanne, my guest, has some different ideas on what roller coaster means. And so with that, Suzanne, I am so thrilled to have you here as my guest today.
Heike, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. And I have to say, this is my first time live on LinkedIn. So I'm like doubly excited. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I know you do podcasts, so that's a whole different
It's a whole different thing. It's not live. I can edit it. This is like, okay, it's go time. Let's go.
Yep. And I feel like sometimes I throw people into that pot of visibility because I think we like to hide behind all of the other technology or sometimes behind what we're doing, and sometimes just going on and being live and sharing from the heart and yet bringing your expertise to the table is exactly what we need to do.
Absolutely. And I have to tell you, I just love your philosophy about visibility and about getting more visible, because as entrepreneurs, as authors, as women who want to accomplish things in life, we can't do it hiding, right? No. We just can't do it hiding. And thank you for bringing up the roller coaster. So that is a reference to my book that came out just a little more than a year ago called Hang On Tight, Learn to Love the Roller Coaster of Entrepreneurship. And it's really, I call it my business memoir. It's all about the crazy stories of my life that have taught me things about entrepreneurship that, and all the ups and downs that come with it. Because if you don't like roller coasters, you may not want to consider entrepreneurship, because you really get those emotional highs and lows, and things can turn around in a second and surprise you and everything else. So yeah, I mean,
It's just interesting because I would love to hear a little bit like what some of those roller coasters. I mean, I'm going through that motion or emotion right now as I'm heading to a big conference here tomorrow to be a breakout speaker. And my stomach is in knots and doing all kinds of weird things. And yet I know I'm prepped, but the emotions are there. So give me some examples of like what you've encountered and from your own story, but then also the clients that you work with. Because I know you work with a lot of authors, but not just authors. So I would love to hear, just give us a couple examples.
Absolutely. Well, I think why the roller coaster is such a perfect metaphor for any kind of business, whether it's an author business, whether it is, a coaching business, is because we get on them and we know we're going to get a thrill. But we also know that there are probably going to be moments that scare us a lot, right? And somehow we like the thrill enough to go through those fear-filled moments. And my experience with entrepreneurship, and I can see this in my clients day in and day out, is we are always, as entrepreneurs, as authorpreneurs, stepping through moments of fear in order to level up, right? And every time we go through one, we realize, oh my gosh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. What's next?
So,
right?
So actually, when you're saying roller coaster, it's really not a bad analogy. It is actually a positive.
Well, I think the beauty of it is that there's so much to it, right? Is you can't not. I am a big believer that nothing in life is all bad or all good.
Yeah.
Right. Because even the things that are exceptionally challenging, they make us stronger people. They make us better people. They make us smarter people. Right. Mm-hmm. And so, I just, an example of my own experience in business is my first successful business was one of being a virtual assistant. And I had a whole team of virtual assistants. And, I had one woman who worked for me for years and was phenomenal. And I had a whole bunch who, I mean, they would tell me they could do something that they just couldn't do. And then I would turn around and be like, do you have that deliverable ready? Right. Yeah. And they were gone. Right. And so here I am. I have this woman who literally said to me along the many years, Suzanne, I just want to be a blessing to you. And she was. And then
Interesting.
I also had other people who seemed just as lovely when I interviewed
Yeah.
them, right? And who ghosted me. And it's things like that. You go, okay, what am I doing here, right? And so both of those experiences taught me things. They taught me about my own people skills. They taught me about my ability to assess someone.
Mhm.
They taught me how to scramble and fix a
Yeah.
situation, right? Or who I could count on to help
Yeah.
me. And so, that's like one simple example, but
So,
they happen every day as to entrepreneurs.
so what I like what you just said is that doesn't matter, like all of our experiences along the way should hopefully teach us something that we can then take along into that next step of our journey or the next ride that we might be taking or however you want to call it.
Absolutely.
But it's
Yes.
not saying like, oh, that was like wasted time. No, if you're actually looking at it and you're willing to evaluate what happened, then you've gotten some strength here, you've gotten some new knowledge, you've gotten some additional wisdom that you can actually take into that next step.
Absolutely. In fact, one of the talks that I often give now is about having focus, faith, and friendship. And the faith is, it's not about having faith in a higher power,
Mhm.
although that's all good.
Yeah,
But it's really about having faith in yourself, in what you've created, in what you believe, in the message you want to share with people, i- in the fact that you believing this message is important isn't just in your head.
yeah,
Um, and I think that's so important for a lot of the authors that I work with, because I primarily have worked with nonfiction
yeah,
authors. They have a big message they want to share, right? And like you, right?
mhm,
You want women to be more visible.
yeah,
That is who you are. It came through you because of your photography work,
yeah,
and I'm sure much of that is, watching women be uncomfortable with themselves for
yeah,
years, having their pictures taken, right?
yeah,
Um, but that message of visibility is so important, right? My other clients, their message of moving through heartache, their message of getting out from underneath, subconscious beliefs that hold them back from things. Their message about, you know what, just take the risk.
yeah.
It's worth it. Those are all important messages, and the more people hear those, and the more people align with them, the better a life they're gonna have. I mean, business too, but life.
And that's what it is. I'm always amazed. I mean, sometimes you think like, oh, you're just kind of doing this for yourself, or like, who even wants to hear your message? But once you're putting it out there, it's. I mean, I found it really the experience that I have had with my own book was much more eye opening than I ever expected. People were I don't know, something just happened
Yeah.
in what they heard and how that sort of moved them maybe into action. I'm talked to someone in a working at a university in the STEM program, and said like I work with women in STEM, like all the science, technology, and I said we're all women who struggle with visibility. And it's like, this has nothing
Absolutely.
to do with athletes and what I did in the book, but they heard what I was able to say through these stories and the importance of like,
Absolutely.
how can we maybe women in these kinds of roles also learn to become more visible and own our story and who we are. So how do you go about that? I mean, you've moved away from virtual assistant and running that type of
Yes, that was years ago. Yeah.
you
So
did
so I've been
you're a coach, you're an author, you're a marketer, you're bringing all those skills into what you do now. So share a little bit more about where you're at in your journey right now.
So it's interesting because in a lot of ways what I do, and I do work with men, but I mostly work with women.
Mhm.
Um, and what I do is I really help them with their visibility, but in a different way, right? Um, I help them believe in their own message. I love what I do because I mean, I know about marketing and I know, okay, well, social media or writing a book or marketing your book or launching a book, getting bestseller status, all those things. But my favorite part of all of that work is the work that I do with the client to help them believe that their message is worthy and that what they have to say is really important.
Yeah.
Because it's in those moments, it's in that work that we do together that I really see the greatest shift in my clients.
Yeah.
And of course I tell them, okay, you need to take these steps and you need to, and I know you're aware of, I have a free gift on my website,
Yeah.
7 ways to shift from being an author to a thought leader. And frankly, it'll work with not for non-authors as well. But, it's about getting out there. It's about, I've specifically noticed people will author books, and I've helped people for years now, probably 6 years, launching books on Amazon and getting bestseller status, and they pay me well for helping them do that. And then 6 months or a year later, I would see that their bio didn't say, author of best-selling book, blah, 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 right? And I'm like, what are you doing?
I know.
This,
It's yeah, you have the right
this.
to.
This is the number one reason you did this, right? So that it can be first and foremost in your bio, or so that people, everyone who meets you now, or everyone you speak in front of says, "Oh, wow, she's a best-selling author," right? And people forget. They just don't do it. And it's such a simple thing. But so I mean, I think many entrepreneurs and authors need someone to kind of look through their stuff and say, hello, you're missing this. This is big, right?
This is where I love where you come in, because you're being described as a gentle butt kicker. And I love that, because that is totally you. You are there, you encourage, you push us, but you never in your face kind of thing. You're encouraged because it's already in us as authors.
It is.
It's really just, you have a way of just being that encouragement that I found tremendous, because you're in that moment when you're writing a book and there's so many things you have to think about, and you're really getting into your head and all the negativity that comes with that. And then to have someone like you who comes in and says, no, it's you have that. This is just the next little step you have to do. And this is another thing that just lifts you up and gets your name out there. And I'm here walking with you and holding you.
And I'm going to hold your hand.
Yeah.
I always tell people, I'm going to hold your hand through this process.
Yes.
Whether it, no matter what project I'm working on with someone, I'm going to hold your hand through this process. I've got you, right? All I need is for someone to take my hand too, and we will get through it and we will make it amazing.
Yeah.
And thank you for that. That means so much to me, because I think that's probably the most important thing to me about how I show up for people, for people and in the work that I do is I want them to have that feeling that I'm there and that I will not let them down, and that I will help them walk through the fire that they're going to walk through.
Because it is overwhelming. I mean, I'll be honest, I found the entire process was so overwhelming, and then, but that's again where it comes in. Like you and I talked, I forget when we talked about that, but like when you bring someone on board, right? We think like we have to do it all on our own.
All on our own, yes.
But so when do we bring on someone who is an expert again, someone who knows what they're talking about, and actually gives you that expertise and allows you to do your thing, which was writing the book, which was like taking the pictures and doing all of that nitty gritty other work, but then being able to just let go of this other huge, to me, burden. And it seems so easy coming from you. So it's like, duh.
Well, and you know what? I think that too is I think many women particularly have a hard time saying, I'm going to invest in the help in my business that will get me through this challenge or will help me reduce the the drag on getting from point A to point B, because this person knows how to do this so well, and I'm not going to have to think about it.
Yeah.
And I do it myself in my business. I'll want to invest in something, and I really have to sit down with myself and say, you know what, Suze, if you make this investment, yes, you could do this on your own and it will never be as good as if you make this investment with whomever it is doing whatever it is, right? Because they are an expert in this.
Exactly.
And it'll be so much easier. And it can be really scary. And I think a lot of women, their businesses, they put on the back burner because they're raising families, or, they just feel that their business is somehow secondary.
Yeah.
And when you stop allowing it to be that way and you say, I'm going for it, and you bring in the people you need, it can soar.
And that's again like where this whole visibility comes in. I think it's this fear of stepping into visibility, and then again getting someone to come help you means, oh, I'm actually taking myself seriously now. I am actually stepping up, and I am willing to be seen and heard, and all the things that come with it, because it means that I'm stepping into the unknown, into that next level that I'm not quite sure how to navigate yet, because it is something I've never experienced. And so there's that trust in the process. There's trust in other people, again, coming alongside you who believe in you. I think that's the piece that I found also incredibly helpful is because you, again, like you second guess when you're in it by yourself, you second guess what you're doing.
Absolutely.
And you don't have feedback. You need feedback from other people, honest feedback from other people to say, you know what you're doing is there is a reason why your voice needs to be heard.
Totally. And I will say, I mean, one of the reasons I love working with authors, and I've kind of turned my business to focus a bit more on working with authors, is that they've come, if they've gotten to the point where they almost have completed a book, which is typically when I start working with them, because I don't do the editing and I don't do any of that stuff. I'm about the launch and then marketing after. If they've gotten to that point, they've already gotten through a lot of gunk about their visibility, right? And I remember sitting, I wrote my book during the worst parts of the pandemic. And I remember sitting there going, is anyone actually going to read this? Right. And yet I've had such lovely feedback about it, about people, someone who's the best thing ever is someone saying to you, I had a really hard time putting your book down. Right. I don't think there's anything that feels better than that in the world. But if you've gotten to the point where you actually have written this manuscript, you have something to say. You have something to say. And and if for no other reason, because every life experience has tremendous value and has beautiful teaching in it, your words are worthy. Right.
And that's a beautiful thing. I really wish, I mean, I feel like, again, like, because you and I, we've gotten to know each other through Polka Dot Powerhouse, which is a global networking, women's networking group. And I find, again, in groups like these is where there's so much power behind having like a tribe of women or a tribe of other people behind you who hold your hand, who encourage you along the way, and then finding actually the expert in the group, but just having that resource at your fingertips. That
absolutely
is, again, like another way, a tremendous way of becoming visible, of finding our words, of finding our moment. Because I really believe there is timing involved in all of this. Like my book, or what I had planned, for example, with my Owning Our Game book, if I had published or done what I had initially planned, it would have been a completely different story.
Absolutely. But things shifted, and it's such a beautiful book. and with such a beautiful message.
But the timing needed to be right. And I feel like, again, like pandemic, as horrible as this all is, but it's brought out a lot of positives in how it pushed many of us to do things that we didn't think about. Now, I would love to pull out. We have 7 more minutes. I like to stick to my 27-minute interviews here.
Perfect.
And I would like, you talked about that you have this free guide that you offer, which talks about 7 steps in your entrepreneurial journey and how to become. Give me the title again, just so I have it right.
It's the 7 success principles for shifting from author to thought leader.
All right, give me I'm going to test you here, see if you know what your 7 principles are. I would like to know, do you know what principle number 3 is?
Oh, in order? Oh, goodness. You know what? I haven't touched it in weeks. I actually think principle number 3 might be about the bios, which I mentioned earlier. I think. But
you know what? Let's touch right back on the bios again, because I think that is something, doesn't matter if you're an author, this is something that all entrepreneurs need to hear. So if you don't mind explaining again the importance of a bio and how that, for all of us entrepreneurs, makes such a difference.
Absolutely. So I think probably the number one mistake that people make is thinking that their bio is all about them. I know that sounds a little bit off, but the truth is that your bio should catch the attention of your ideal client, right? Your ideal avatar. And the way to do that is to have something right up front about who they are, right? So it is, my bio starts out something like Suzanne Tregenza Moore helps entrepreneurs and authors build revenue instead of feeling like they're stuck in their daily to-do lists.
Yeah.
Right. So of course, it introduces me and it introduces what I do, but it does it from the perspective of the person who is reading it and of catching the attention of the person who is reading it. Right.
You don't want to pull in someone you don't want to work with. So you have to be almost like really clear in that first sentence of like who you actually would like to have connected with you.
Well, and also, other people work with entrepreneurs and authors around, editing, right? I don't do that.
Yeah, or like the whole getting the idea of.
Or they might work with them specifically in email marketing. And while I can help out with that, like I'm not going to get deep in the weeds around that, right? And so I focus on helping them build revenue and stay out of the daily to-do lists. Not that we don't get to have to do those too, right? And then my bio will talk. It does mention that I have an MBA in marketing and entrepreneurship because I think that's highly relevant.
Yeah.
But I find a lot of people now who are coaches have things in their bio about like prior corporate this, that, and the other. I was I was a vice president. I was and it isn't that any of that is unimportant. But your bio, you really should have a bio that's you need to have something that is 100 words or fewer, because when someone reads it to introduce you, you don't want people falling asleep before you actually get to speak. And and it needs to be relevant to them. So you mentioned I have in my bio that I'm a gentle butt kicker, right? That is, I really value that. I want the people I work with to value that.
To me, that spoke because it meant like she's gonna get things done for me. She's gonna encourage me, but without being
snarly.
Again, like it explained a little bit your personality and how it works. You're not like, hi woman, and blah blah blah. Like again, that would have scared me away from you. So this gentle butt kicker was exactly what I needed to hear to say, like, I think I can work with her. I'm not going to feel like an idiot in what I'm doing here, because she will be there gently guiding me and leading me in that entire process. So to me, that was a clincher. That was like so important to hear, because it showed me your personality, how you work.
Yeah.
So I feel like little words
Thank
like
you.
that. So, I mean, I have in my bio, it says something about like that I hold fear. That's one of the first things I say. Heike knows how to channel fear, how to hold and channel your fear.
Yes, which is huge, I'm sure.
One of the biggest things when people come in that they're afraid of. And again, like all of these things that hold us back from becoming visible is if we can help our audience, our clients understand like our process of how we are there for them. I think that if we can have that in our bios, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. But then if you've written a best-selling book, it should be in there too.
I know, totally.
Yes.
And I don't even have a best-selling book because mine was more of a coffee table book, but I'm still having it in there as that I'm an author, just to have like the curiosity and like, what did you write? Because I'm writing about my own topic of photography. So there needs to be that kind of marketing, bringing in, you are an expert in what you do, and that's why it's out there. So we are running out of time, and I would love for you, I always like to ask my guests if they have a quote that they like, and I hope you have one ready.
My absolute favorite quote is, if you believe you can or you believe you can't, you are wrong. You are right. Sorry, you are right. Right. So if you believe you can do something, you're right. And if you believe you can't, you're right, because it's all up here.
In your head. Totally is. Suzanne, it was an absolute pleasure talking with you, learning more about the journey of becoming an authorpreneur and all the 7 steps that you might want to learn about. We're going to put the free guide that Suzanne has to offer into the comments. So make sure you check it out and get your copy and learn more, because I think it definitely will be helpful, not just for authorpreneurs, but for any type of entrepreneur, because those are solid steps that all of us can follow. So follow Suzanne. Check out what else we have to do, and I will talk to you in 2 weeks. After I come back, it's going to be a solo show, because I want to share a little bit like what happened during convention and where I'm speaking next week, to share a little bit about my own getting visible journey. So join me in 2 weeks, 9 a.m. again for coffee and getting visible with Heike. Have a wonderful day, everyone.